Hey, sports fans, this is Robert with WTP Sports Dudes here live with you this morning, getting ready to talk about some week 11 in college football. Man, listen, it was some really good games yesterday. SEC, man, it's right now, I don't know. It's kind of mixed up right now. I don't know who's going to come out of that SEC. All I know is I'm hoping that these boys I got on my chest come up out of that SEC and make it to that SEC championship game and on to the 12-team playoff. They had a really good game yesterday, and we'll get into that a little bit later on in the show. It was a lot of really good games. Some games we talked about on Thursday, and we are now going to talk about them this morning. So I'm anxious to get into it and see what's going to go down. I think some of my games got erased. Now that I'm looking at this, yeah, some of them got erased. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get rolling. Upset of the day. Number 4, Miami goes down at Georgia Tech to Georgia Tech 28-23. Now, Cam Ward played, his stats looked really good in that game, but I'm quite sure their defense just could not stop the run. I think Georgia Tech almost had 300 yards rushing. You cannot go and play a team who you know is only going to run the football and you allow them to do just that to the tune of, I think, 282 yards rushing in that game. Georgia Tech only threw for, I think they might have threw for less than 50 yards in this game. Miami, you already knew that was what was coming after you. You should have had a better game plan to stop them from being able to run the football on you like that. You were you were minus 11 and a half in this game, which means they expected you to win this game by at least 11 and a half points. But instead, you took the L. You really muddied up the ACC conference running because everybody expected you to go undefeated once you got past those difficult games that you had, and they seen some of the other teams on your schedule really weren't that good. Man, Miami, you really put yourself in a bad position, even though you still control your own destiny. But you've given SMU something to use in order to beat you. If y'all both meet up in the SEC championship game, y'all might even play in the regular season. So that's going to be really interesting to see. So Miami, you got to go back to the drawing board. We all knew it was coming, though. We all knew that it was coming because you had way too many close games. You should have probably lost to Cal. You probably should have lost to Virginia Tech. You were able to squeak both of those games out. You were able to come back last week against Duke and win that game pretty handily. But this Saturday, it did not happen. Georgia Tech wasn't having it. Their defense played really well for Georgia Tech, and they were able to, control things offensively against Miami. They were able to run the football. And all those of us who watch sports, we know that if you can run the football, you can be in every single game that you play as long as you can run that football. And Miami got ran on. That's why they got ran out. We also talked about that Army game only because Army is undefeated and they have a possible chance of making the 12-team playoff. Right now they're ranked number 18, and they ended up beating North Texas in North Texas only 14-3. That is not what I expected, but remember, Army's quarterback is still out. So they're going to be a lot better once he gets back. If he gets back before the end of the season, I know they definitely want him back by the time they play Notre Dame. But hats off to North Texas. They were able to hold Army to only 14 points. Even with a backup quarterback, I expected North Texas to be able to cover this game and be able to do their thing. That's right, cuz go Army for sure. I hope they make the 12 team playoff. I really do. I really do hope they make it. And right now, this time of the year, it's all about win. Just win, baby. Just win. And Army did that yesterday at North Texas. Even though I was rooting for a hometown boy, Jalen Hill, from here in Columbus, Ohio. I used to work with his mom, Amber Hill, and his dad, James Hill, for the Columbus City school system. And it was good to see that he played a really, really good game yesterday. And Army pulled out that victory 14-3 over North Texas. All right, next up, we got number 17, Iowa State. For many weeks on this show, we talked about Iowa State being one of those teams that we thought was going to win the Big 12 and play BYU in the Big 12 championship game. But 2 weeks in a row, they have been upset. Number 17, Iowa State lost yesterday to Kansas, 45-36. But after I seen Iowa State lose last week, I knew that Kansas was going to get them issues. Whenever you got to go to Kansas and play at this time of year, the weather is all crazy, and they know how to navigate that weather. So they were able to do that to the tune of a 45-36 victory over Iowa State, which I think at this time this probably puts Iowa State in a really, really bad position in terms of trying to make the Big 12 championship game. But for those of us who do this show, we're ecstatic because that opens up the door for my man Prime and them Colorado Buffaloes, who we'll talk about a little bit later on in the show. So Kansas pops number 17 Iowa State 45-36. Next up, we want to talk about Clemson. This Clemson team won yesterday 24-14 over Virginia Tech. At the beginning of that game, when Virginia Tech went up 7-0, I thought Virginia Tech was going to play one of those games like they played against Miami and take this thing to the wire. But Clemson was able to figure some things out, and they were able to get back in this game and win it 24-14 by 10 points. And they covered that 6.5 that they were favored by. They didn't get anywhere near that 53.5 over and under. So Clemson still has some work to do. They're still trying to make their way up the ladder to try to make it to that ACC championship game. I don't know if they're going to make it because they're not considered one of the best two-loss teams in college football right now. That title belongs to Alabama. Right now, the committee believes Alabama is the best two-loss team. And after you've seen what they did yesterday, man, they got the committee in their hand. Next up, we got the team I mentioned a little bit earlier, number 21, Colorado. They beat Texas Tech yesterday, 41-27. This game was really, really close throughout that game until the fourth quarter where Colorado was able to make some things happen. Their defense played really, really well in that game. I was shocked at how well their defense played. And week in and week out, their defense has steadily gotten better and better and better each week. And yesterday, they played really, really well. I don't know if they held Taj Brooks to under 100 yards, but they made him work for every yard that he got. And that defensive line really controlled the line of scrimmage in that game, and they were able to give Sador Sanders enough time to find some open guys, and they ran the ball really well. And they were able to beat Texas Tech um, 41-27. I had all of this stats all in my thing, but got erased. 41-27, Colorado. And we know we talked about Colorado a little bit earlier in the show. Colorado, all they have to do now is just win. Just win. They also got to go to that Kansas team, who at this time of year, like I said, it's hard to play Kansas in Kansas with the kind of weather that they have. I mean, we all watched Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. We know how it can rain there, how those winds can swirl, and how, tornadoes can pop up at any given time. So Colorado's going to have their work cut out for them when they go to Kansas. I think they also got Utah at home, which I believe they can beat Utah, and I believe they can beat Oklahoma State the last game of the season. So just win, Colorado, Coach Prime, and your boys will be in that Big 12 championship, most likely facing that BYU team who squeaked out a victory over Utah 22-21 yesterday. Next up, we got number 2, Georgia. Now, I know everybody is upset about these Georgia Bulldogs. Maybe not everybody. I'm upset that Georgia lost because as a Texas fan, just like Ohio State fans want to play Oregon again in the Big Ten championship game to avenge their only loss, as a Texas fan, that's what I want too. But Georgia did not look good offensively against Ole Miss. And Ole Miss's offense with a hurt Jackson Dart still was able to beat that Georgia defense. I couldn't believe that once he went out in that first quarter, I think it was the first drive, and he came back in, even though that backup quarterback looked like he was doing pretty good. Jackson Dart came in and commanded that team, man, even though he had some weapons missing on his team and the wide receiver Trey Harris, he still was able to lead their team to victory. But it really was on that defense. That defense balled out, and they gave Carson Beck all kinds of fits. They stepped the run game for the most part, and they were able to beat Georgia 28-10. But I said earlier in the year that Georgia had a tough road ahead of them. They had to go to Alabama, which they got beat in that game, even though they came back in the second half. They had to go to Texas, which they went to Texas and they was ready. And they handed Texas their only loss of the season. And in that first half, they showed Texas, listen, this is big boy SEC football, and you got to be ready to play. And they thumped my Longhorns 30-15. And then I knew they had to go on the road to Ole Miss. And the way they had been playing so far this season, outside of that Texas game, they had not played well at all. And Carson Beck, as you all know, in the last 2 games, he threw 3 interceptions in both of those games apiece. So you knew he was kind of shaky going into the Grove to play Ole Miss, which their defensive line, man, is for real. I don't even understand how they got 2 losses with that defensive line that they got. But I guess sometimes your offensive line can defeat that defensive line. But Georgia's didn't yesterday. So they took an L, and they're probably going to fall behind Alabama in these college football rankings. I don't think they're going to fall out of the top 12, where that's where your college football playoff teams are going to come from. I don't think they're going to fall that far, but I believe they're definitely going to fall behind Alabama. I mean, they have to, right? I mean, you can't be ahead of a team that beat you the way they did, and y'all both got 2 losses. The next game that I thought was going to be a better game than what it was South Carolina at number 24, Vanderbilt. I thought Vanderbilt was going to play them a lot better at home because they had played some really good football up until this point. But South Carolina, and they have a really good defensive line too, was able to shut Pavia and that Vanderbilt offense down. They beat them 28-7. Um, and Pavia just really wasn't able to get things going. And that South Carolina offense with Sellers and the boys, man, they were able to do their thing and beat up on Vanderbilt 28-7. This lets us know that Vanderbilt got their wake up call, and they're probably not as good as we thought they were. So they'll definitely fall out of that top 25, even though they're gonna make a bowl game. So that's probably was their number one goal. Let's get to 6 wins and get to a bowl game. Next up, we got Mississippi State 14 at number 7 Tennessee 33. Tennessee was favored by 23 and a half in this game, and the over and under was 61. They didn't get anywhere near that over and under. But I don't even know why it was even that high, because what did they expect Mississippi State to do? They expected Mississippi State to score 20-something odd points. Not going to happen. They're not. Their offense is not that good. Their defense isn't that good. So they got thumped 33-14 at Tennessee. Tennessee's one of those teams that now they control their own destiny with that Georgia loss. Now they're considered the second best team in the SEC, them in Texas. So now all they got to do is win out, and they could possibly beat Texas if Texas wins out for that SEC championship game. Now they still got to worry about Texas A&M, who only has one loss in the SEC, but they have 2 losses total. So they got a ways to come in order to get up in there to play Texas in that SEC championship game. So Tennessee just continue to win out, and Texas continue to win out, and y'all can meet in that SEC championship game. That would be that would be nice. The battle of the real UT. I mean, I already know who the real UT is, and I know who the imposter is. I got the real UT on my chest. Real UT. But Tennessee is a good football team, and I hope that they make the SEC championship game. I would like to meet them in that bowl game. I mean, in that championship game. Next up, we got number 1 Oregon at home against Maryland. I really thought Maryland played really well in that first half, man. Really almost 2.5 quarters. You know, they made that game kind of close against Oregon. But as you all know, Oregon's going to do their thing in that fourth quarter, man, and they just start to pull away from teams after they figure out what they need to do offensively, and they start to use Dylan Gabriel's legs a little bit more to buy time and to even run the football. They were able to open that thing up. They didn't cover that 25 point spread that they was favored by, but they won 39-18. A really good showing by Maryland, though, for 2.5 quarters. And the over and under in that game was 57.5. And they was right at 57. Right at 57. So if somebody bet on that 57.5 on the over, the half got them. And we always talk about that half, man. That half be tricky. That half will make you either go or not go. And in this case, if you win, you lost your money. Next up, we got I thought was the game of the day. Well, on paper, it was the game of the day. But to watch it, it was not the game of the day. Number 11, Alabama 42 at LSU 14. LSU was, Alabama, were favored by 3 points, which the odds makers knew that Alabama was the better team to go into Death Valley and get that win. And the over and under was 58.5, and they did not reach that either. It was only 56. They didn't reach that over. But the odds makers, they knew that Alabama was the better team. Everyone on the show, though, I believe, picked LSU to win this game because it was in Death Valley and it was at night, and they don't lose in Death Valley at night. And I thought Nussmeier was going to play a much better game than what he played. He did not play well. Well, I ain't going to say he didn't play well. His wide receivers didn't help him much either. But their defense, I thought, was going to be much better in this game. But they let my man Jalen Milroe run all over them for the tune of 185 yards rushing. And I don't even think he passed for 150 in this game. So they did really well against the wide receivers. They could not stop Jalen Milroe in the run game. And I don't know if Kalen DeBoer and his defensive coordinator realized, oh, this is the kryptonite for LSU. But apparently it was, because it worked to the tune of a 42-14 victory over LSU at night in Death Valley. I think giving Brian Kelly his first loss at night at home in Death Valley. Good showing, Alabama, which is considered the best two-loss team in college football. And I think they want to try to have something to say about who goes to play in that SEC championship game. And, I mean, they might be able to make some noise and get there. We'll have to wait and see. But right now, I think it's a good shot for it to be Texas and Tennessee right now. Matter of fact, let me look at Tennessee's schedule and see if Tennessee can possibly get there to play against whoever they're going to play against, which I already know what Texas' schedule is like. And I think that they have a pretty, well, I think Texas can make it there for sure. I think they can beat Arkansas next week. Then I believe they can beat Kentucky the week after. I'm actually going to that game in Austin. And then the big showdown at the end of the season against Texas A&M. And I think that we can beat Texas A&M as well. But let me check out Tennessee's schedule for the remainder of the season. Oh my God! Next week they got to go to Georgia, a Georgia team that we already know. Kirby Smart, much like he did when they went to go play Texas, he's going to make sure that they are ready. They're going to be hungry and they're going to be PO'd. I'm going to use PO'd because this show is trying not to cuss too much. Listen, Georgia is going to be ready to thump Tennessee. But Tennessee has a good enough defense that they could rattle Carson Beck. And Carson Beck right now, he has to be all in his head right now because he has not been playing well. And I think that's advantage Tennessee. And Tennessee has a decent enough defense to be able to slow them down. And I believe they can win that game against Georgia. But they're going to get Georgia's everything because Georgia is not trying to not make the 12-team playoff. Because we all know if they lose this one, that'll give them 3 losses in the SEC. That's hard to come back from. I just hope that the committee, if they do lose to Tennessee, I just hope that the committee swallows their pride and says, listen, Georgia, not this year. Not this year, Georgia. But as a Texas fan, I don't want that to happen. I want to play Georgia in the SEC championship game because I want some get back. I want some get back. But if I don't get no get back this year, we play them again next year in Athens so we can get our get back then. But I think Tennessee can win out because they got Georgia, then they got UTEP, and then they got Vanderbilt in Nashville. Another game that I believe they can win, the Battle of Tennessee. I think they could definitely get that win. So they have a very good chance of getting there. And I think Texas has a very good chance of getting there. They beat Arkansas next week, which is going to be a tough game because Arkansas is going to come and play hard because it's Texas. And then Kentucky, I think we can get Kentucky at home. And then I think we can get little brother in A&M at College Station. Thanks, bro. I appreciate it. I know you at the job right now, getting it in, getting that money. Next up, we got Florida at the team I was just mentioning, my team, the Texas Longhorns. Florida came in banged up, and they really didn't have any chance in this game, only because they got injuries galore. Their top three cornerbacks are hurt. Now, just think about this. You got to come and play a Texas team, and your top three cornerbacks are hurt. Your top three. And you got to face Isaiah Bond, who came back in this game, and you seen what he did in that game. And then you got to deal with Matthew Golden, and you see what he did in that game. And then you got to face DeAndre Moore. I can't say you see what he did in that game because he dropped two touchdowns. Two touchdowns, bro. Quinn Ewers probably would have 400 yards passing had he not dropped those passes, man. And he would have had maybe 7 touchdowns. He would have broke the single game record of 6 touchdowns. I think it's held by Colt McCoy. Had he caught those balls, and those balls was right in his hand and should have been caught. But anyway, Texas was able to win 49-17 against a very, very banged up Florida team. Who everybody who was a Texas fan, we already knew by this time of the season, because Florida's schedule was so tough, it is so tough, they was going to be too banged up to even come into Austin and compete. And they weren't able to do that, even though they showed a lot of grit and a lot of fight for their coach, Billy Napier, which Billy Napier, I'm so glad that they did not fire you and that they announced that they were going to keep you on as their coach, because those players are playing extremely hard for that Florida Gator team. Andre Cray, LB, and anybody else who likes Florida, y'all got a good coach in Billy Napier, man. Don't look at the record. Look at the fact that y'all got tons of injuries. I mean, y'all on y'all's third string quarterback. And y'all got a beast in DJ Lagway. Once he gets healthy and he's able to get back there out there on the field, y'all got a beast as a true freshman, 5-star in DJ Lagway. So Texas beats Florida 49-17. Quinn Ewers had an awesome day, 19-27, 333 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Jaden Blue catching the ball out the backfield was tremendous. And Trey Wisner catching the ball out the backfield was tremendous. Arch Manning got in, and it was really just hand the ball off to Jared Gibson, who rushed for 100 yards, most of them in the second half. From the time he got in there with Arch Manning, all they really did was run the ball with Jared Gibson, who had 2 fumbles. One he got back. The other one we didn't get back. Young man, I'm going to tell you like how I know it. If you don't hold on to that football, you will not get touches. Steve Sarkisian does not play that. You see that Jaden Blue was our number 1 running back. He fumbled twice against Mississippi State. Guess where he at now? Second string. And all he really comes in is on third downs, passing downs. They don't hand the ball to him a whole lot. Hopefully, he's getting their confidence back, because we're going to need him down the stretch. Because if he gets a crease, he's gone. But he caught the ball really well out of the backfield, and Jared Gibson ran for 100 yards in this game. Even though Texas almost gave up 100-yard rushing to 2 backs. One back did get it. Another one got close. But that's all they could do was run the football. They really didn't have any passing game. But they had a pretty decent game plan. If they had a good quarterback, they would have been right in this game. The next game I want to talk about is Michigan 15 at number 8, Indiana. I picked Michigan to upset Indiana in this game. And listen, they had opportunities to upset number 8, Indiana, and get them their first loss. Davis Warren, you got to set your feet. You got to have your platform together. Anytime you overthrow a guy, it's because your feet are not set. And if you underthrow a guy, it's because your feet are not set. You got to get your feet set. You had some wide open guys that could have gave you an opportunity to win this game and be the hero, but you missed on too many of them. You missed on too many of them. Uh, Sharon Moore, you got to have some kind of passing game when you bring Orgy in the game. You can't, listen, teams already know if you bring Orgy in the game, all he's going to do is run. All he's going to do is run. You got to have a pass, a little tight end drop or something, man. You got to have some kind of pass if you're going to bring Orgy in the game. You got to keep the defense honest. They ain't even honest. As soon as they hike the ball, linebackers and everything is coming to fill the gap. You got to do something, Sharon Moore. You got to do something. And if you're going to leave Davis Warren in there when you're down there, you got to be able to have a pass where you can get it to your top receiver, Colston Lovely. You got to make that. You got to make it happen. Even when he gets double teamed, you got to figure out a way to get that guy the ball, for sure. Michigan left a lot on that field. So did Indiana too. But Michigan's defense in that second half, after giving up those 2 touchdown passes, they played really, really well. They played lights out, in my opinion. And I thought Michigan was going to win that game. They had a chance in the end, but they didn't make it happen. I really wish that they wouldn't have gave up that field goal at the end to give Indiana that 3-point 17 when it was 15-17. If they would have stopped them from getting any points, the game possibly could have been different because you call a different game plan because with a field goal, you win. But that didn't happen. Michigan goes down 20-15, but they had a chance to win it. Michigan fans should be happy about their boys having a chance to win. The last game we got on the slate, Purdue 0 at number 2 Ohio State. Ohio State dropped 45 on their head, and Ohio State was favored by 38.5. And many of us on the show thought 38 was a lot, and it is. And the over and under was 53.5. I knew that Ohio State was going to thump Purdue, and all of us knew that Ohio State was going to thump Purdue, but we didn't think Purdue was going to put up a goose egg. We thought they was going to at least get a touchdown or a field goal, but to score no points wasn't good. But we all thought that Ohio State was going to play very, very well in this game and really have everything clicking offensively and defensively, and they did. And number 33, Sawyer, is that his name? Sawyer. Man, he was a nightmare for Purdue in that game. Ohio State 45, Purdue 0. And hopefully Ohio State can go ahead and win out and beat Northwestern next week, beat Indiana, and then get a chance to play against their rival Michigan at home in the shoe and possibly win that game and to be able to meet Oregon for the Big Ten championship game. Hopefully Oregon can continue to win out, and I don't see anybody getting in their way with the remaining schedule that they have. They don't play anybody tough, so they'll probably win out, be undefeated, and meet a one-loss Ohio State team to see who's going to win the Big Ten. If you're watching, or whenever you watch, if you watch it at a later time, who gets your Heisman vote right now after 11 weeks of college football action? For me, it was last week. It was between Cam Ward and Dylan Gabriel. I thought either one of those would possibly win the Heisman at that point. Now I believe that Travis Hunter has probably put himself in a position where you can't even think about giving it to somebody else with what you're seeing this young man do week in and week out, playing both sides of the ball, shutting down one whole side of the field, catching at least 7 to 8 passes for over 100 yards and scoring at least a touchdown or two in each game. I mean, if you watched that game yesterday, he got an interception that they were offsides on the play. But to see him turn his hips, launch himself into the air, and intercept this ball, man, was freaking incredible. I mean, the athleticism that this guy has, you cannot deny this dude the Heisman Trophy, man. I just can't see it happening. Now, Cam Ward had a really good game, even though they lost. I mean, threw for over 300 yards and three touchdowns. Over, I think he had almost 350 and three touchdowns, but they lost. And then you got Dylan Gabriel, who just has weapons galore all around him, and who plays really well. But when you compare it to what you see Travis Hunter doing, it's like in any other ordinary circumstance, one of those quarterbacks would probably win it. But these are not ordinary circumstances. And Travis Hunter, man, he deserves the Heisman Trophy right now. And even if he didn't play another game, I believe he's the best player in college football, and the trophy should already have his name on it. They just got to go through the formalities, have a ceremony, but he should really go there by himself, which I know it wouldn't happen. But he should be able to go there by himself, man. He should win that trophy hands down right now. And I don't think there's any games on their slate that will keep him from performing the way he's been performing so far. I think I had one more question on here. Nope. All right, well, that's it, I think. That's it. All right, well, I appreciate everyone for tuning in to today's college football week 11 recap. It was some really, really good football yesterday. Please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Share our videos. Please hit the like button. If you're in here right now, hit the like button right now. That's the thumbs up button so that we can know that you were in watching this video. Make sure that you share the videos with your friends and family members. We're trying to get to 300 subscribers. Right now, we're at 244 subscribers. Just 56 subscribers away from our goal of 300 that we want to reach before the end of November. So please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Please share our videos. Please let your friends and family know, hey, man, go check out this sports YouTube channel. They got a pretty nice channel over there. Appreciate you. Thank you for supporting us, and hook 'em.